When you think about it real hard, all Columbus did was discover a West Indian backyard. He got there with his little flag. He's like, hey, I claim this land for Spain. And the West Indian guy's like, hey, man, get your damn flag out my yard now.
As I was just to them my last election, Welcome to Civil Alert.
Welcome back. What's going on, Santasha? Welcome back, everybody, to another great week on Civil Alert. Like always, don't never take what we say on this show, because it's one of the hardest hitting shows always. Cause I've been doing it for a minute, so I don't pull no punches, and the people that we bring on don't pull no punches. This is one of the hardest hitting shows, Civil Alert, backed by popular demand, with the help of a lot of people that actually pushed me to bring this forum back to everyone. So like always, I want to say, grab a pen, piece of paper, grab some books, grab some law books, grab your Constitution, grab all these things, because we want to go deep. Tonight's subject is going to be really based on the Americas, and we're talking about, and actually before we start, that song was for all my brothers and sisters from the Caribbean. That's Haiti, Jamaica, Trinidad, Barbados, the islands, St. Vincent, all that's America. So that song was for everybody that, maybe listening via the internet from the Caribbean. We would love y'all to join in. Also grab a pen and piece of paper if you're out there. Grab a dictionary, grab a law dictionary, and grab a Constitution. Tonight's subject is going to be very good. We got a lot of powerful brothers, scholars is going to be on here. We got my man Hawthorne James in the waiting. For you that don't know, Big Red from Five Heartbeats did a brilliant film called The Stick Up Kids. We got my teacher, master teacher, Brother Taj Tarik Bey, on the line waiting also. And we have for everybody Moorish Brooklyn Intelligence. So we got a lot of people coming in, and we're going to have a lot more. Like I said, this forum is for everyone. Civil Alert is for everybody to join in. We don't get into debates. We just deal with factology, in the words of Bambaataa. We deal with facts. So present your facts, we present our facts, and we just run with it. So with that, we're going to take this little short break and give y'all some updates on the news that is going on. I'm going to talk about some movies that people should go see and watch. We'll be right back after this minute. We talking with Santasha, my co-host, and Sabir Bey. We'll be right back after these messages. Listen up.
Sat on the
Simple alert. Wow. We giving some props. Welcome back to Civil Alert. I almost said my old radio station, but I can't slip up and do that. No free promotion over here. But I want to give a shout out again to my co-host sister, Santasha, always holding it down. Even though she's in another state, you would think we were right here with each other. So I want to welcome everybody back. Huh?
I said it's about that synergy.
Yeah, that synergy.
Or maybe
it's
just the rose quartz.
Yeah, that works. You know what I mean? You works. You know, I remember you telling me one time give that other stone to Africa Bambaataa. That was crazy that happened. And you connected.
So how has that been working?
Yeah, it's been working. It's been working very well. And I want to say welcome back to everybody, man. There's a couple announcements before we get started again. Yo, if you're in New York, which I will be spending time at Dougie Fresh's restaurant on 7th Avenue, 132nd Street, Dougie's Chicken and Waffles. I mean, I will be going there. And if you're in New York, support that brother because he did hire a lot of people that's inside the neighborhood. He sells chicken and waffles. He also have kosher food, no pork in there. So if you eat pork, you got to go around the corner. So no pork will be allowed up in that camp. So 7th Avenue, 132nd Street in Harlem at that. And he hired everybody inside the neighborhood. And if you out here where we at, yo, you got to check out Simply Wholesome. Simply Wholesome's is up on Slauson and Overhill. I mean, the spot is like a Whole Foods. Man, they got some banging fish patties in there, vegetable patties, the whole nine. And actually, we're going to have a Zulu anniversary out here at the end of February, and Bambaataa will be out here. We'll be going there again because we have like 4 or 5 tables when we get in there. It's a sister and a brother who owns it. They've been doing that for like 28 years. So Simply Hosted on Overhill and Slauson. I'm going to tell y'all, you ain't going to regret going there. I'm just telling you, if you're trying to get your health going on, go there and visit that brother and sister. Also, Brother Taj and I will be in Atlanta. Actually, I'll be there before that, showing my film, The Naseem's Council for Hip Hop, which me and my brother from Turtle Gang actually put together. This was over about a year ago, but it's actually give you the history and a rundown on the real pioneers of hip-hop, like who really started this thing, like who heard African Mbata. Like a lot of cats don't even know where this stuff started at. You know, you talk to most of these cats today, you know, they don't even know the 5 elements of hip-hop. You know, because if you don't know that, you don't know real hip-hop. And so we'll be doing the showing and actually a panel discussion in Atlanta on the 28th. And since Flash could probably fill you in actually where it's at, because he's on the flyer says the TV. I don't know what that is.
Right, it's at the theater at 1705 Commerce Drive, Atlanta 30318. And some of the panelists will be Jason Orr. We have Minister Server, Sabrock, and DJ Soul Messiah.
Ooh, Sabrock. If y'all never heard this sister Sabrock, and you don't see that many sisters in hip hop, you know, today, and she kills it. If you have a YouTube, go check sister out. It's SA-Rock, R-O-C, Sabrock. The sister be killing. We're going to be on the panel. We're going to discuss about hip-hop, where it came from, how it is today, what people think about it. So come out and join us. It's going to be from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. in Atlanta on the 28th. And for more information, go to my Facebook page, Sabir Bey, on the Facebook page, and you will see the flyer. We sent out a lot of flyers. And also, Brother Taj Tarik Bey and myself will be in Atlanta on the 4th of February. So I'll be there still. On the 4th of February, called Occupy Your Heritage. It's going to be February the 4th at Commerce Drive, 1705 Commerce Drive in ATL 430. It's going to be on February the 4th at Commerce Drive, ATL 1705 Commerce Drive. I mean, it's going to be hot. So we got a lot of stuff. Brother Taj is not supposed to be out. Eventually coming up for the late in February, we're going to be doing LA tour also. And before I get off here, I hope my brother Phil Valentine is on. He said he's going to call in too if he get out the meeting early. But I got to give a shout out to my man, but you know, he's like my, you know, uncle. You know, he's Phil Valentine, and he gave me a lot of advice, whether he know it or not, when I was talking to him earlier. So Phil will be joining us on Civil Alert coming up soon too. So we got a lot of stuff jumping off. You know, on the phone lines we got Hawthorne James. For y'all that don't know, my man Big Red from 5 Heartbeats. Taj is on the line. Moorish Brooklyn Intelligence is also. So we got a lot of people on here. Before we get started, also, on our subject pertaining to dealing with the Tainos, and I want everybody to look up these people, and actually they're really talking about us, these Tainos. And the Tainos it's not just from one particular island, because all the islands in South America is America. People don't get it twisted. So when Columbus came and he saw the same people he saw over in Africa, here, on the same land. So when you're reading different documents like the Indians not taxing the Constitution, this is why they pull it out. They're not talking about Hollywood. They're talking about our ancestors. We just got hit in our head, like Hiram said, and went to sleep. Not saying we're not Africans, but we didn't use those terms at the particular time. So look up these people called the Tainos, you know, and how we was connecting with our people in West Africa back and forth and also in Egypt. And I would, for those that may be doubting, this is why I tell you to put out your books. I want people to look up the Gullahs. And I'm going to read it. This is from a regular Webster's Dictionary. It talks about the Gullahs. And it says one of the group of Negroes, now it says one of the group of Negroes living along the coast of South Carolina and Georgia, right where you at, Natasha, and off the island coast. The dialect of the English spoken by the Gullahs. And this is what it's talking about. It says an African tribal name. I'm going to repeat that because I don't think people heard me. It says an African tribe name. But it also said up here at the top, a group of Negroes. And the Gullah is spelled G-U-L-L-A-H. The Gullah. In the movie The Stick-Up Kids, he spoke about the Lenny Lenapis. But I'm going to let my guest is on the line. We're going to go back and forth with this and build on how we were here and how we need to take it back. And you take things back through your knowledge. You have to educate the masses of the people on what's going on. Take it back through your knowledge. If I can convince you that this is not your land, then you can't claim anything that's over here. You know, we always growing up saying we have Indian in our family. And now to the movie section. I was watching, there's a movie with Mel Gibson, and I forgot the guy's name. I think it's Angelina Jolie's father. That's called Bandit or something like that. They were talking to the indigenous people, and they was talking about how you shouldn't go to Haiti and different places because they wouldn't treat the people the same. Now, these are the Europeans that came over here. They're telling our story, but the people that you see on Hollywood don't look like you and I. So we got to be conscious to this thing here. We were already here. They kidnapped a lot of us that was here and took us back to Africa and brought some that was back and forth. So you got to remember, it was a brother on a boat, Moorish Indian, and Taj is going to build on that term Indian. It was a brother that guided Columbus over here. So he was the interpreter for the European Spanish. So all of our history is right here. So even the movie Patriot is another movie. They don't talk about us, but they more so trying to portray these Indians as what Hollywood did. And they have the money, you know, and they can do what they want to do. So that's how they're doing it. They have the money. But we, like Brother Hawthorne James said, we have to start making and supporting our own so we can put our story out, our way, the right way, and not always shucking and jiving like these reality shows. You know, so also that's one movie. So check these movies out. In Rosewood, there's a scene inside Rosewood when the Europeans shot the brother when he said he was a Seminole. And he said, you know, he said nigger, Negro, one of them, you're not a Seminole, and he shot him. Go back and watch the movie. He said he was a Seminole. So it would show you that genocide still happened. We keep trying to fight, talking about Africa all the time, but there's genocide right here with our own people. You got to see these things that is constantly happening, but it's, you know, that was not too long ago. This is the 1920s. We keep trying to fight for what happened in the 1800s. You know, 1700s. We're talking about right now in 1920 when our grandparents was alive. So these are the things that we're going to discuss and try to bring it full circle. A lot of stuff is going on. The Europeans don't hate you because of the complexion of your skin. It ain't that. They know exactly who we are, and they are all inside these secret lodges studying you. You just don't know that you are Hiram, who has been knocked in their head and knocked unconscious. So now we're separating our brothers and sisters from the Caribbean, not even understanding it. And also, before we bring them in, last one, there was a movie, and I love these two brothers, Melvin Van Peebles and Mario. They did a movie called The Gang in Blue about a police department that had a secret society inside it that was running around killing off brothers. Inside this movie, and after the movie went off, it said that this secret society is in L.A., in the police department, New York they mentioned, Atlanta, South Carolina, and I think it was New Orleans, one of them. And it happens. So these secret societies are there inside these police departments. So it ain't no mystery. And actually out here in L.A., they recruit all their police officers in the South, down South, and they bring them up here to L.A. It ain't a shock that they have that attitude towards our people. Again, they know exactly who we are. So we have to stand up, teach what needs to really be taught to our people so we can unify as a whole and become that majority that we are. We are not a minority of people. We are the majority. We are linked to every island, and from north to the south to the adjoining islands. So with that, let's bring in our guests. You ready, Tasha?
Yes. We have Moorish Brooklyn on the line. Greetings, brother.
Moorish Brooklyn. Peace, brother Moorish Brooklyn. Peace, brother.
Peace, hello.
Hey, man, what's going on, family?
Peace. What's going on?
Man, chilling, brother. Just you know, and for everybody, this brother right here is actually, he is from Jamaica, and he showed me something some time ago about, I'll let him tell you. We you know, tell him the story that you told us when we was in New York one time. And we want to bring in, before we get that, let's bring in brother, we have Brother Hawthorne, who else we have on there?
We have Brother Hawthorne James.
Brother Hawthorne James, bring him in too.
Yes, sir.
Brother Hawthorne. Brother Hawthorne, what's going on, family?
How you doing, man?
Hey, man, it's all love.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Well, we got Brother Taj on too?
Let's see if he's here. Give me 1 sec.
I don't know if Mel is on too, but I just want to introduce you to these cats the right intro. Before we get,
I'm not seeing Taj here.
Okay, well, we'll wait for Taj. Before we get, I want to go into this. This brother right here, Moorish Brooklyn Intelligence, I know y'all probably seen some videos with him and I, and he taught me a lot about the Caribbean when I was in New York. He showed me that we weren't the same people. You know what I mean? He's talked about the kingdom of Jamaica. And my man Hawthorne James, I got to give this brother high props, because if you ever watch this brother's films, he remind me of a, you know, a Melvin or a Mario Van Peebles. I'm going to tell y'all that. Because the roles that he take, he just don't take any kind of role. He puts his heart in these roles. Because if anybody saw Stick Up Kids, anything else that he did to take on something like that, rather he know it or not, you know, like Phil Valentine said, rather people know that they're taking on certain roles and they bringing life to it. Because if you saw Stick Up Kids, he ran into so much talking about the Lenapes and the Moors that was here, and he knows his tribe. If you never saw that film, people, please go pick that film up. I'm telling you, it's a modern film building about our history on this particular land. And there's a book out called Ancient and Modern Brits that spoke about the African tribe called the Lenapes by David McRitchie, was written in 1884. So check this brother out, man. He's doing some things, man. And I want to welcome you again, Brother Hawthorne, for always coming on. Like I said, this is your home. You know, always come on.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Always, man, always. Let's start with Brother Hawthorne James, man. Tell people, for those that may not have been listening before, about the film called The Stick Up Kids in the Caribbean, as far as what you know about your history and your lineage, before we get into this.
Well, my history is I'm one of those people who always been told that he was, a mixed heritage, of course, with the Native American in there. And as a child, I didn't know what that meant. I just knew that was part of that native, of the native peoples. But, it's a shame that we're always separated, because there are Native Americans and, who don't think that you're part of them. And that's the separation is really is innocuous, man. It's hurtful to all of us that we don't know our history, and we're ashamed. There are people who, black folks in this country who say, I'm not African. Well, nobody said that you were African, but you don't hear any Dutch people talking about, I'm not Dutch. They're proud of their heritage. They're proud of where they come from. People who come from France who are quote unquote Americans. People who come from Germany, they don't forget their heritage. They celebrate their heritage. Why are we trying to run away from our heritage? And we have a full, rich heritage, but it's not in the books. Everything that's in the books is negative in the books that you're told to read. Now, I'm not the most knowledgeable person on the subject of Africans who were here in this country before. My knowledge just touches the surface. I don't pretend to be, but at the same time, it's just logical. If you look at the west coast of Africa, you look at the east coast of America, you see that the currents. You could take a rowboat from the western coast of Africa to the eastern coast of the U.S. If you look at, you have to know that the Malis were sailors. If you look at Columbus's navigator was an African. Well, if you're going out on a dangerous journey, do you want just some guy you picked up off the corner? No, you're going to go find the best. So apparently, the African was the best navigator. So it's logical the Africans had already been here and knew something of how to get here. The problem being is the currents will take you from west to east, but until you get the sails, you can't get back. So therefore, the knowledge is only one way as opposed to two-way. Now, when the sail came in, you could go back, but it's logical that everybody could get here. And if you look at there's statues in Mexico that have quote-unquote Negroid features. How did they get here? Nobody wants to know about that. They're trying to cover it up. They're letting the acid rain destroy it, because that's history. If you know your history, you're not going to be this ignorant people who think they come from nothing, who think they're just a jungle dweller. You have to know your history. Kids, we have to at least get them on the path so they can find out their own knowledge. And the best book that I have found, it's such a simple, easy read, is They Came Before Columbus. And then in the glossary, etc., you will be able to, if you're really interested, you will be able to find the other books that he got his knowledge from. And you're on a path to knowledge that is absolutely incredibly, the value of that knowledge is just astounding. And I'm glad other people are scholars. That's not my, like I say, that's not my expertise. I listen to other people whose expertise is, because everybody can't know everything. But if you know just enough of it, it's like, that's why we had it in the stick-up kids, because we had enough in there that if you're interested, now go search for yourself. Don't take my word. You do your own research.
And that's a roadmap. That movie was actually a roadmap to for the coming of more. And actually for people, there's a great book by Horace Butler. He did a book called When Rocks Cry Out. And this book is like mad brilliant. It's a brilliant book, man. And I mean, the information is out here. For that brother that he was just talking about, that was brought Columbus, remember, he thought it was flat. Remember, they thought the world was flat. So his name was Estevanico. And he was trying to find out, that's his name, Estevanico, and people to do the research. Like I said, we always give our facts on these shows. His name is spelled Estevanico, Estevanico. And he was from Morocco. This is in 1500. So what does Morocco have to do with the people that was in the Caribbean? And they say, well, that sounds like a Spanish thing. You got to remember that, we was all these people. We were the people that they were talking about. So now moving forward, let me talk to Moorish Brooklyn. Can you share with people a little bit about you and the history of Jamaica and what you share with me about the kingdom of Jamaica?
All right, can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you, brother, loud and clear. Sound like the 18
right.
people already.
First, let's just give the people some premise on global history, right? So we understand how we're connected. All the true continents on this planet start with the letter A. Americas, Africa, Asia, Antarctica, Australia. For the wise man and the Moor, the letter A represents a pyramid with a capstone. So your slave master has it right in front of your eyes that you're global, but they trick you to make you think that you're continental. All right, if you look in the Oxford Dictionary, I give people the full title. It's called the New Oxford American Dictionary, the second edition, right? In the back of the Oxford Unabridged Dictionary, there's a section called Countries of the World. Now, why Oxford? Oxford is said to be one of the great universities for scholars, but if you do the history, it was actually Moors who set up what was known as Oxford University today, and later on the mulatto Jews and then the pale Jews, took it over. But in the section called Countries of the World, they split apart countries under a section called country, a section called capital, a section called continent and area, and a section called nationality. And if you go to Jamaica, Jamaica would be under country. The capital of Jamaica would be Kingston. Nationality would be Jamaican, but the continent and the area that they have Jamaica assigned to is North America. So anybody who studies know that the Caribbean islands that actually makes a crescent shape over South America, by archaeological proof and geological proof, the Caribbean islands are part of North, Central, and South America. So the first question people would say, well, it seems that the Caribbean island was populated by slaves. Actually, if you study, that is not true. The first documented slaves to come into the Caribbean was a bunch of Moors that was known as the Black Ladino, Ladino, between 1502 and 1518. The Black Ladinos was a bunch of Moors that was expelled from Spain, and some of them went to indentured servitude. Because in Spain, when we were fighting our mulatto cousins and Christians, you either had to be expelled, killed, go into indentured servitude, or leave. Also, the next recorded time is 1619, when 20 Moors from the royal family from a section of Europe called the Negrita. There's a Negrita in Africa and there's a Negrita in Europe if you look on old maps. But the one in Africa is modern. The Negrita of Europe is when 20 Moors from the royal family was brought to the Americas by the Dutch. Before both of those times, from the black Ladinos and the Negritas, there were already original people in the Caribbean from North, Central, and South America already. And by their verbal records, they've always existed in North, Central, and South America. The Jamaicans are people from Jamaica, properly known as Essamaica, which means the land of wood and springs. They have said populated Jamaica between 4000 and 1000 BC. And of course, from there, they came from North, Central, and South America. The indigenous people of that region was known as the Taínos or the Arawak. The Taínos is a small tribe from the bigger tribe of the Arawaks, which is part of a bigger empire known as the Moorish Empire. There's two references I will give. One is that a brother named Noble Drew Ali explained to us about our Moorish Empire that spanned from northwestern and southwestern Africa. And people populated these regions before there was a great earthquake that created the Atlantic Ocean. There's another reference. There's a sister. Her name is Queen Sheba Ra, also known as Queen Sheba III, from the African Kingdoms Federation. There's an interview of her that you could watch on YouTube where she explained that she's from a bloodline that ran an empire that stretched from Asia into Africa into Americas. Once again, she's talking about the Moorish Empire. So we've been here for a very, very long time. Now, for Jamaicans now to understand some of their history, some of the people in Jamaica were known as the Maroons. But the Maroons is a variation of Moor. When you research the Maroons, they said that the Maroons come from Western Africa, but that's part of the story. Your slave master is not going to put your history together for you or give you the whole story. But when you research the Maroons, they said that the Maroons were in Canada, North, Central, South America, the Caribbean, Africa. Once again, we're dealing with the same people. A Maroon, though, was any melanated, indigenous, autochthon, pre-Adamite, paleo, original person on the planet that rebelled against the colonizers. The Caribbean is named the Caribbean, which are islands that's in the Caribbean Sea, because the Caribs were documented to be the first people in the Caribbean area. But the Caribs, that's not their real name. The Caribs mean savage or barbarian. The Europeans call a group, a tribe of people, the Caribs, because these Caribs wasn't trying to hear colonization. The Arawaks in Jamaica, that's not their real name. Their real name is actually Locono, and there's another older name before that. But Arawak means people of peace, because the Arawak actually brought them in and was actually doing different governmental and diplomatic type of dealings with these European sons. Well, people will say, how is that possible? You know, we're supposed to be naked with bones in the nose, doing ooga booga baga, and we're not supposed to know any of these things. Well, if you research Maroon Wars in Jamaica, there were 2 Maroon Wars. And at the end of the first Maroon War, the Maroons signed a treaty. So how is savage people going to be dealing with government, civics, law, and international relations? So our history is very, very, very deep, but we have to research it. Shout out to a woman named Granny Nanny. Granny Nanny is one of our Jamaican matriarch because she's the one that basically rounded up the so-called Maroons, also known as Moors, together to fight against the British and the Europeans. Granny Nanny was a Moor. And if it's not clear that she was a Moor, she was buried in a part of Jamaica called Moortown. So,
wow.
Yeah, they could do
facts right here. This is some heavy facts, man. So Brother Hawthorne, how important? Because I'm looking at this book, and I always suggest people to get this book. It's called The Black Indians. And first of all, from the teachings of Prophet Noble Drew Ali, he said, stop using names that allude to slavery. And he was not talking about Smith, Jackson, Joneses, and Johnsons. He wasn't talking about that. He was talking about Negro, Black, Colored, and Ethiopian, or now African American, because those were names that was given to us. So there's a history in Philadelphia about the chopping down of the cherry tree in Philadelphia Independence Mall. So that's when our nationality was taken in 1774. So then all these other titles was placed on us. For us to get out of this, we have to be like the sister, and I want you to get into that later on too, also in Moorish Brooklyn, about the Prime Minister in Jamaica, how she's trying to claim independence from Britain. Noble Drew Ali was saying stop using names that allude to slavery. So we're thinking by changing our name to Kareem or whatever, you know what I mean, we're not, you know what I mean, they're not slave names. They're just names that you paid for from someone who took it from you. You know what I mean? So, you know, and we went to court for it. But he was not talking about that. He was talking about Negro, Black, Colored, Ethiopian, and now I say African American. If he was alive, he would say that too, because that's really 3 continents. So, Hawthorne, what do you think about in the industry that you're in? How important it is for us to have that, you know, that type of image in film or even on TV?
Well, you know how important it is, because nowadays, especially, most people get their knowledge from the television. They get their news from the television. They get everything they understand about every corner of this world from the television. And if you're not part of that, at least to counterbalance everything that they're saying about you, if you're not part of it to give your point of view, nobody has to take my word for anything. Like I say, do your own research. But at least you get a different view, and then you can go and research it. If you're constantly being told you're a savage, then that's what you're going to believe. If you're constantly being told through film and television, through the medium, that you're nothing, then that's why a young black kid can go kill another black kid, because of the fact that they don't believe they're worth anything. They don't understand the history of the rich, like this brother's talking about. I'm sitting here listening to him, because there are things, I told you before, I don't know everything. So I'm being schooled. And those are things that eventually, hopefully, I will be able to put into a film, at least touch upon it, because in the 2 hours you can't tell all the history, but you can tell little pieces of it. And if you never get that, you never understand who you are. Names, changing your names means nothing, because you're still the same person on the inside. And I'm so glad this brother is talking about the Caribbean, because of the fact that, for me, I'm sick of us being separated from the Jamaicans, from the Bahamians, and all of this other stuff. And they say, no, I'm not part of you. And that's just a divide. Can we get past this nonsense? Can we stop dividing ourselves? We're doing a better job of it than they did. Let's stop.
We are.
And that's how important film is to this. That's how important television is to this. You're imparting knowledge. The film, The Red Tails. I was on the radio yesterday talking about it because of the fact that here we are. George Lucas, one of the most powerful men in this industry. When he took the film, apparently, this is what I've read off the internet. When he took the film to the studios, they said no. He reached in his pocket and wrote his own check and produced the film. When he finished the film, took it to the studios, none of them wanted to distribute it. He reached again into his pocket and paid for it. Now, I know a brother directed it. That's a big, huge step, because because it's like when other cultures direct films about us, they psychologically put little details in that aren't us. We at least need to be in a directing and a writing process of this, so that we can put those little fine, minute details into the film that truly represent us, because we know us. Nobody else knows us, because nobody else takes the time to know us. So that's what, and hats off to George Lucas for doing it. Now, I don't know what the film is going to be like. I don't know, but it looks, the trailers look really good. It looks a top-notch film. So I'm hoping this is a step in the right direction, but we have to continue on that path by ourselves to do it again. We have to become the George Lucases, so that we can reach through our pocketbooks and say, no, this is going to be told, this is going to be done, and people are going to see this.
You know what? To quote Lupe Fiasco, I was listening to him, and I respect that brother highly. He said in one of his tracks, he said, if you're, like you're saying, if we in this position, you doing film, and I'm over here trying to do film now, which I gotta stop saying that because I get cussed out about that, working on it, they say if we in these positions, even if you're behind the mic of something, it's power. Lupe Fiasco said, if you're not an actor, you can never be a factor. This is one of the things that he said in his song called The Show Must Goes On. So he's saying this in a song. And he interviewed him one day, and he said he has a responsibility to do what he's doing. He said he don't vote, but he does the work. This is what he said. The work is more important than that, because you have to inform people. This is why I love when you come on, or Mel come on, when I talk to Mel, when I talk to different people in this industry and say, look, we need to start visualizing. Let's create our own film. But we have to get the people's support to make, to get that to happen. And like you said, with the separation. I don't like when we say, oh, I'm not Jamaican, or those Haitians. They, when that thing went on in Haiti, that's all I heard. I'm not Haitian. I'm like, wait a minute, you're not Haitian. You know what happened with the Haitian Revolution, what was going on? I mean, that's your people. So people say, well, they don't see themselves as being us. But see, they stuck to their culture and who they are. We only...
Your brother got bumped off?
Yeah, I lost.
Civil Alert Radio with your host, Sabir Bey. Engaging, informative, third eye opening.
And are we back? Hello? happened? Peace.
Yes, Sabir, we're back on air.
Are we back? Well, I was going to say what happened. I said I thought they tapped into us and said, wait, they're giving up too much information.
Being control for quality control purposes, right?
Yeah, for quality control purposes. Hey, Brother Brooklyn, you still on the line with us, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Before we get into these callers, tell us what was going on, because I just heard recently that Jamaica just I think they're trying to find about independence. They're 50 years or something like that. Could you fill us in a little bit on that, because I got kind of thrown off track dealing with this whole that separation. I don't like that, because we're the majority of people. Stop separating our people from these Caribbeans, because we need that help. So can you fill us in a little bit on what is going on in Jamaica right now as far as the independence and what they were talking about, the indigenous courts?
Okay. First, there's something that people could look up. There's something called the OAS, which is the Organization of American States, all right? These are a bunch of countries from North, Central, South America, and the Caribbean. They're part of this organization called the Organization of American States. So if the Caribbean is not part of America, why is the Caribbean part of an Organization of American States? All right, what's happening now in Jamaica is that they just elected a new prime minister, a female. And, before I was speaking about Granny Nanny, so I guess she's bringing in the spirit of Granny Nanny. She says that it's time for Jamaica to break away from the clutches of the Queen of England. And she also said it's time for Jamaica to be ran by an indigenous person. And she also says that she doesn't want to go to the High Court, which is in the British Empire. She wants to go to the Caribbean International Court, which is in the Caribbean. So this is very, very, very super important, because this shows how the people want to basically take back control of their land and their resources and their affairs. For people that don't know why, there's something called the Commonwealth. And basically the Commonwealth original name was the British Empire. Slavery hasn't changed. It's just become legalized with different codes and ordinances and municipality rulings and different things like that. So the British Empire is still here. Basically what the British Empire, which is now known as the Commonwealth, they basically have real estate in the Caribbean, Canada, Australia, and parts of Africa. So the sister in Jamaica, she basically wants to really solidify Jamaican independence, because I read the Jamaican Constitution. And in the Jamaican Constitution, if they're supposed to be independent, why are they still pledging allegiance to the Queen? So, okay, you're free externally, but behind the scenes, we run the currency, the commerce, and the government. So that's an illusion of independence. So this sister really trying to bring it back to the people.
Okay, so for instance, I guess that's the way they get D.C. from, which is the District of Columbia.
Right.
Because D.C. is a district. It's not a state. It's not a country. It's a district. So people always say this nation. So this is, and actually I was from a Commonwealth, which is Pennsylvania, which is like I remember when Tony Blair was going to fill it, and when they come to these states, they actually have to check up on their subjects, and people understand that. They check up on subjects when they come here. This is where the Commonwealth, what he's talking about. And if people, like they say, don't take our word for it, do the research on it. But how do you take this back is through your knowledge. Brother Hawthorne James just said that one is through the media. I'm telling you through the radio and also through the literature. This is information that mainstream really don't even touch on, or have a person like me or Moorish Brooklyn or any of us on it really to talk about this. It's not that we hate anything. It's that we are miseducated. That's basically what it is, being miseducated. And it's purposely done because a great scholar passed away some time ago, John Henry Clark. He said, people in power would never teach the powerless how to take power from them. He said to do that would be insane. So don't expect him to teach you what's right. It's to mistreat you and misteach you. So this is what they're doing today. So it's up to us, like, this is why I started this forum back, so we can have this open dialogue for people. And like Hawthorne James said, we can't do this in an hour show or a 2-hour show or an hour video. It has to be lecture set up. This is why I'm open. We're opening up now. Brother Taj and I will be speaking in different places like Atlanta. I want to do something with Hawthorne James. Maybe people on on this phone line will say, well, let's make it happen. If they will make it happen for us to do a dialogue or a lecture somewhere in their particular state. I mean, these are the things that we have to do. It's like we have to come together. We can't keep separating our people from the Caribbean. I mean, that's down to the Dominicans, to the Trinidadians, which only means Trinity. So, I mean, we get caught up, keep saying that we're different. So let's go to the phone line. Y'all want to take Hawthorne, Moorish Brooklyn, y'all want to take some phone calls real quick?
Sure.
Cool.
Okay, let's take some phone calls real quick. What we looking like on time right now, Santasha?
We got about an hour left.
Oh, wow, time fly. You ain't lying, Hawthorne, boy.
Sure
you said right. Time just be going, man, because sometimes, we got to let people play catch-up, because we can be beyond some people's heads, and they be like, wait, I'm not following you. It's like, it's very simple, people. Just research what we're saying. We're giving you jewels right now. We're giving you the keys to free yourself. If you can think for yourself, you can free yourself, really. It don't always have to be through a violence, even though that's going to happen, but take it back through the knowledge. Through the knowledge. You can just ask them where their green cards at when they come in. I'm not talking about the people we call foreigners. I'm talking about people that's here, that's occupying this thing here. Let's ask them where their green cards at to pass any laws and start reading the Constitution. Let's go to the phone lines.
Caller 314-243, you're live on Civil Alert. Please state your name and where you're calling from.
My name is Brother Oliver Bey. I'm calling from St. Louis, Missouri.
Hey, Brother Peace. How you feel? You have a question, comment, brother?
Yeah, I do have a question. Well, I got a comment first. I did receive the documentary of Prophet Nova Duralu.
Okay, thank you. Okay, yeah, the documentary. Yeah, I'm glad you got it, brother.
All right. I had a question about the declaration, the proclamation that was given by the governor of Chicago. I was trying to find it, and I could not get it.
Real quick, we're gonna try to keep this simply on the subject matter. That proclamation will be on my Facebook, and you can download it. We're trying to keep it basically on this particular subject matter about the Caribbean and the Americas. Any question posed towards Moorish Brooklyn, Hawthorne James, and myself from what you've been listening to late on the show. Is that okay, brother?
That's okay. I don't really have any questions about it. But let's see. Maybe I can get a better understanding of what year it was that Christopher Columbus actually landed in the Caribbean.
In the Caribbean?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, brother. We're going to answer that. Moorish Brooklyn, if you want to, you can go into that. You can actually answer this question, what year did Christopher Columbus come here, and what part? He never came up to North America, but I'm going to let you go there. All right?
Right. Mr. Christopher Columbus, or Cristobal Colon, and all his other names, because he was actually a business real estate man. He was trying to work with Spain and Portugal and work behind their backs, because if you read his documents or see some of the sketches of his maps, or some of the maps they had, he actually turned islands into continents and continents into islands because he was a businessman. But according to the date that we have, according to his own journals, it's supposed to be 1492, where he came over here with some indentured servitude Moors to basically get a little survey on, the so-called New World for them. It wasn't a new world for us because we already knew that the world was round and everything like that. You could get a book called Ancient Maps of the Sea Kings, which shows how we basically mapped the whole entire planet, including Antarctica that nobody, talk about like if it doesn't exist. But we was on Antarctica at one time.
Wow. I read a book in Philadelphia. It's called the Pennsylvania Encyclopedia, and it speaks about that history, about what the people look like, and it spoke about the Lenape and how they had the high cheekbones, and it's like even down to the languages. They say in certain books that they use African. This is what they're saying. They use African slaves to interpret to the Indians. This is what they were saying. So how could an African slave interpret or speak the language of a so-called Indian? See what I'm saying? So, but what happened, they were the same people. You can't speak another language. It's like somebody coming to me to speak to somebody in, let's say, South Carolina. We basically know our language. We know our culture. So I can relate. And they always had people like that. I don't know if y'all remember when, I think it was Jesse Jackson went to go free somebody. They had to go get him. They had to get Ali to free somebody when he had these cats captured overseas to relate to those so-called Arabs over there. To relate to them, and also now, modern day, you got Obama. See what I'm saying? They always have an interpreter to speak, so-called speak to our people. But that is nothing new. That is documented in our history. Thank you, Brother Oliver, man. Let's move on. Who else do we have on the line, Natasha?
Caller 302-723. Welcome to Silver Alert. Please state your name and where you're calling from.
Yes, from here, Tarik Bey. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear Tarik Bey?
Yeah, that's me. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, brother. You have a question or comment, bro?
Yeah. I was following up. First of all, Islam Sabir.
Islam, brother.
To Brother Hawthorne. I did check out the movie Stick Up Kids. Watched it with my wife. Thought it was an excellent production, and I want to encourage you to continue on doing what you're doing. All right.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
No problem. I wanted to add to the lecture tonight. In my studies, what I usually do is I go full circle. Some areas that I use are maps, ancient maps, architecture, pyramids, ziggurats, mounds, cairns, things of that nature, and, different authors outside of traditional study that they give us to study here. And I came across some interesting books. One, 1421, The Year China Discovered America, by Gavin Menzies.
That's a good book.
And are you familiar with that one?
Yeah.
This one, the reason I thought this was interesting was in the middle of the book, it has a lot of maps, ancient maps that map the different continents, including the Perry race map of 1513, which is actually older than that date, but it shows Antarctica detailed, as you had mentioned, and this is gone, right now it's full of ice, so they don't know how that it was mapped. It had to have been prior to the ice being there or so forth, but that was interesting. But then another thing was, in here it also talks about Zhu Dai, who was the ruler of the Forbidden City around 1400s, and how he commissioned Zhang He, or Zhuang He, if I'm pronouncing it correctly, with some trade ships. And then Zhang He also had a Chinese armada that went around the world, 1405 to 1433, touched just about every continent, and then they mentioned Fu Sang, where the Buddhist monk Ho Shin in 499 A.D., had actually came to America and dealt with the indigenous people in the Mexico area And just to give a little history on Fusang, the Fusang was the name of the great cactus that was similar to the cactus found in China, that was found here in America. And they described Fusang, he gave that as the name of the American North, Middle, and South America. They said the position of it was about 200,000 Chinese miles or 8,000 nautical miles east of the imperial lands of China. So the only thing that we know of that's east of China would be America today. And when he came here, he interacted with the people that were already here. Just going to reinforce, what's been going on in the conversation tonight. So in my study, it always comes back 360 full circle to enforce that we was already here, exactly. 499 AD, and even prior to that, down in Louisiana, Poverty Point, they actually have a sign there at the national park that states that the indigenous people there, the Washita or Wachita, is spelled with the O-U-A, similar to the Chinese pronunciation of Wa, from 1600, I think it's 1600 BC. So this is even prior to the 499 figure. So it just keeps going further and further back, and it's totally going against what these history books that these Europeans are giving us as our history, which is incorrect. So I just wanted to add to the conversation. Didn't want to, take away from it, but
no, that's all love. This is the platform for that, brother, and I'm glad you brought that up because I don't want people to think it's just us. It's just that we are in the information age right now, and people want to know. And it's like in a lot of this stuff, we are being bombarded with slavery so much. I've spoken with Jose Pimentel Bey, which he builds, and he says that there's no value in knowing about my enslavement. When you have something that negative constantly, it messes with you. It's like Brother Hawthorne said, these brothers don't know anything else. He said, my life is not worth anything. Because we constantly are being bombarded with the negativity. I'm saying negativity on TV. From the I don't even want to say the names of the shows because you already know what they are, the reality shows. But anyway, it's like this is why they look at and kill a person over a pair of sneakers. They just recently killed someone over a pair of Jordans that came out. I'm like, are you serious? There's no value in knowing about that. So if you constantly say, well, we did this, we went through this, and somebody put that in your psyche, you want to eventually go out and do it. There's no, there's no positivity. We don't know that this is our land. We don't know that we're home. We don't know, they speak of Asia Minor all the time, but nobody says, well, if it's a minor, it has to be a major somewhere then. So where's the Asia Major? And don't know that you're standing in Asia Major. Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad used to call us the Asiatic black man. Asia was the land. That is the land. So we looking at it saying, well, wait a minute, so where the Asians come from? And I told an Asian this one time, and I said, well, I am the Asiatic. They looked at me one time. I was in New York, and they kept calling themselves Asian. I said, no, I'm Asiatic. And if anybody look it up, you'll see it. It will blow your mind when you look at it. When you research these things, this is why I tell people to get a book, a dictionary, and I would say the older is the better. Language is very important. So we're in this school, and we're being taught totally wrong. The school system, we used to read from right to left. Now we read from which way, left to right. So we read different. So if in England, they drive on the right-hand side. So over here, we drive on the left. So when you start doing it, you're throwing a person off balance. See what I'm saying? The Quran was written that way. The original Torah and all these books were written that way. So when you're teaching people opposite, in schools, they teach in rows. In our culture, even in Africa, or what I would say for the sake of, I would say Indian, so-called Indian, we always taught in a circle. The circle was to teach and look at each other, not to look in the back of somebody's head. See, they threw you off all the way around. So in a circle, we would teach, and you had the MC, which is the chief or the master of ceremony. The same thing with hip-hop. Hip-hop was a cipher. We will always be in the middle. The person would be in the middle, the MC talking to the people. And we would look at each other, not in rows. This is how they threw us off. So this is why we don't know our history, know our culture. This is why it's mandatory for us to have these types of films, these types of real forms out here. Thank you, brother, for calling in.
Yes, thank you. And on that note, Sabir, I just had a quick question, a statement. Here in Georgia recently, in Norcross, which is Gwinnett County, is a situation where there was a teacher to issue a math test, and it said each tree has 56 oranges. If 8 slaves pick them equally, then how much would each slave pick? And this pretty much happened several days ago. So the 8-year-old went back and told his parents, and, it's been, all over the news, and a lot of people are gathering and pretty much going to the school to complain about the situation. So my question for Moorish Brooklyn is, in Jamaica, is it wide known, or how is the curriculum set up within the schools, especially within the elementary and middle schools? Do they provide all of the information, or is it pretty much filtered, and they just give them that basic history about, okay, everybody came from Africa and slave ships?
Right. It's the same way that's set up here, because wherever the colonizers were, they had to set up a system and a web. This system and web is immaculate, or else it would not be standing to this day. So it's the same thing. They are educating you to be a replacement for the machine matrix, not to uplift your people. It's up to you to bring it back to your community and to your people. So one thing that the colonizers did was, well, first they got rid of all the ancient deities and the ancient gods, and they set up Catholic and Vatican saints with the same story, the same color dress and everything. Then they set up schooling boards, which is now known as Board of Education. So nothing changed.
And speaking of that, about the Catholics, I heard some time ago that the Pope was ran out of the island. What happened with that, or is that true?
I'm not familiar with that story.
Wow. You know what? This is deep, though, because I want everybody, again, like I said, this is dealing with factology. Here's a test called the State of Education in the U.S., right? This is an 1895 8th grade grammar exam test. I'm going to read that again, so go online and download it. It's an 1895 8th grade grammar test, final exam. And in here, it talks about grammar. It speaks about U.S. history. It talks about give the period discovery of and the settlement in 1492 to 1690, because what you were talking about, Natasha, and it also speaks about the expansion of the colonies in 1690 and 1763. And it also speaks about securing independence. It speaks about giving account of the discovery of America by Columbus. And it gives you the whole history of where he went to the Caribbean, who he saw, because he never got off the boat. He never stepped off the boat. People don't even understand that. He never got off the boat. But what happened, this 8th grade grammar test, it says in there, see if anybody in a college can pass the 8th grade grammar test of 1895. It said that. And I'm like, wow. Now, it made me think about before we really started going to school. You know, but when we started going to school, they started teaching. I think Brother Hawthorne, somebody may confirm this. They used to have social studies, but now they have. They used to have what is it called?
Civics.
Civics, right? Yeah, civics, right? So now they have social studies. Now, see what I'm saying? They switched everything.
Well, everything. Right. You know, if you don't believe education is important, then why do you think they're changing the textbooks today? Because you always change. I mean, it's just logical. Let's be honest. It's logical. If you're on top, what makes you think you want to go to the bottom? If you're on top, you do everything that you can to stay there. I mean, just politics of today. Why are they changing the voting rules? And what people don't understand is, as soon as they get rid of you, they're going to turn on somebody else. You're next in line. They don't. The people with all the power and stuff don't care about what color you are. They could care less because somebody got to pick their fruit, don't they?
Yes, they do.
If they get rid of me, you're next. And that's what's so idiotic about this whole thing. They're changing the rules not only on me, they're changing the rules on you. They want you to stay in Appalachia poor and without, because they can exploit you. Somebody's got to go into those coal mines. Somebody's got to go into those gold mines. You got to go, partner, because it ain't going to be them. And the brother that's talking about the Chinese, it's always been my understanding that there are evidences of people from the continent who were emperors, but they're trying to get rid of that evidence now because they don't want to know their own history.
Oh, wow. So what did they say they look like?
Look, quote unquote, Negroid.
There you go. You know what's a movie that I tell people to look at? The prime example. Look at the old movie Planet of the Apes that came out in 1966. The history. He was talking about blowing up the cave with the history that was in it, and he went to the cave to show them that it was life that was there before that. And the ape was saying, blow the cave up, because it's called the Forbidden Zone. See, like you said, they're telling our story. They're telling. But it was called the Forbidden Zone in there. They talked about jurisdiction.
There are many examples, and it's only logical because if life started on the continent of Africa and it spread out, people didn't change colors automatically. They adapted where they went to. You adapted. You became pale because you lived in the snow. You became your Asiatic features because of where you lived. You became Filipino. There's a story of there was an earthquake, I think in the 70s, 80s, something like that, in the Philippines, and all of a sudden this whole nation of people came out the mountains because of the earthquake, and they were all black people. They'd been living up there, and nobody knew that they were there. Well, of course black people were there because black people started on the African continent of dark color, and they spread out, and you adapt. It's nature adapting your color to your environment. So what are we afraid of? I'm not afraid of it. But those in power are the ones that are afraid. Those in power keep the Caribbean from becoming what it naturally should have been. It's like Brazil. How idiotic is to go to Brazil, and it was only the late 80s, late 90s that they finally got their quote unquote one black senator into their Congress. The power structure. And I'm not saying tear down the power structure. I'm not saying that at all. But if you'll never be a part of the real structure until you know your history, until you know who you are, and say, no, this has got to stop. There are always going to be people on top. There are always going to be people on the bottom. I don't care what it is. There are people who are going to be, there's only one president at a time in this country. Somebody's got to take the lead, and I don't mind following somebody with a brain in their head.
Wow, you heard it from our elder. You heard it. Let's take some more phone calls. Natasha, you ready?
Yes. Welcome to Civil Alert. Caller 718-916. You're live. Please state your name and where you're calling from.
Peace, everybody. Peace. This is LSD, Lord Shiva the Destroyer on Facebook, Rudra Shiva. I got the name basically through music because I'm a Moor, and I'm not going to let that get twisted, but I have that name basically through music. But I respect everything that y'all brothers are doing. Y'all brothers are putting out a lot of positive information and knowledgeable information, and especially Brother Taj Tarik Bey. I've been
Taj is not even on the phone
for a long
yet.
time.
Yeah,
Okay.
I was trying to catch Taj, but I don't know what happened. Maybe he's on the road, but we stay moving, man. Taj is not on. He might be on the line somewhere, and he might be listening. So we don't even know yet where Taj is at. He just pops up everywhere. You know.
Well,
You got Moorish Brooklyn Intelligence and Brother Hawthorne James on.
Yeah, and Moorish Brooklyn as well too. I've been checking out a lot of his videos for the past few years. And, I mean, even at a time when I was kind of brainwashed, I watched one of his videos that he was talking about the Baphomet. I kind of started in my head, like, kind of dissing him because I was on some David Icke bull stuff. But then when he started, I'm listening, he's dropping knowledge, so I'm doing the research. I'm like, yo, this brother's right. So I kind of, he kind of put me on another path. just as well as Taj Tarik Bey, and as well as you, because I checked out a lot of your videos and got heavy into the Moorish stuff and with Brother Taj Tarik Bey with the canon law. And I'm also Nawapu, so I'm coming from the schooling of Master Teacher Dr. Malachi Z. York as well. So with me getting into that, all it's doing is just put me back on track. But as well as the Caribbean, I'm a Panamanian. And my background goes through Jamaica and Trinidad. And I know my history is that, like most Panamanians, a lot of Panamanians consider themselves as Moors, while a lot of other Panamanians would consider themselves as white or, something like that. But my background, we consider ourselves as Moors, and I do a lot of music within the reggae industry, the rap industry, work with Jedi Mind Tricks, Killer Priest, Sons of Man, and even the time, and basically I'm throwing out questions now for Moorish Brooklyn to answer, because, I feel he could definitely, give me some correct answers on it. But dealing with Jamaica and the whole Caribbean, the time with Budja and Buddha, I felt like that whole thing had to deal with just the government basically trying to step foot into Jamaica, have a reason to step foot into Jamaica and try to, really take over the government once again, because they know 2012 is coming. Everybody waking up, the Anunnakis, which is basically us, Anu, Most High, Naki, Serpent, Snake, Knowledge, Most High Knowledge. We got to wake up to realize that we the indigenous people of this land and take back, our rights and our land. But I really feel I had to deal with a lot of stuff like that. And in the Age of Awakening, even on the History Channel, they're talking about the Mayan pyramids, and they're blaming it on aliens, the Baskin pyramids, blaming it on aliens. So I feel like they're basically, once again, trying to David Icke, cover up what's really us, say that it was aliens that came and taught us this, while Rome was built in one day by great knowledgeful white people, which I believe is bull crap. And they even killed people like Kennesaw and Garnet Silk for putting out messages, because a lot of people don't know Kennesaw might talk about Jah a lot, Rastafari, but he even talked about Moors, in a lot of his songs, just as well as Garnet Silk. So these are different brothers that have died. Capleton is still alive, and I respect Capleton. I've done a lot of interviews with Mutaburuku, and he's kind of like basically put me on to a lot of the stuff that I'm saying too as well. And I'm putting out a lot of music that's basically trying to give out this information. It's a lot of reggae music. A lot of reggae music is basically talking about Moorish history, and stuff like what we were talking about Christopher Columbus. They have a guy named Ken Booth who talks about Christopher Columbus. He has a song, and it's talking about how Christopher Columbus came over here and started raping everybody and stealing, and rewriting history for the Europeans and stuff. So basically, I just like Moorish Brooklyn to kind of continue off of that. What, how does he feel about that, and does it really have anything to do with that? And basically, can he go into the history with the Moors on Panama and Jamaica, the connection with that, and the Panama Canal as well?
Well, that's a lot. Thank you, brother. We're gonna hang up and let you Moorish Brooklyn go in today.
All right, and I want to give a shout out to Brother Hawthorne James as well, because he's definitely been giving a lot of knowledge. I don't want to leave him out of this as well, So definitely big up and bless our Brother Hawthorne James.
Yes. Yeah.
Good. All right. Let me see. There's a very deep connection with Panama, because if you study Marcus Garvey, who was an old school Moorish Mason or Jamaican Mason, so was the brother that helped free Haiti, Toussaint Louverture. These are old school Masons, which means that they use their masonry in order to free their people, not like these Boule and House Negroes today. But before Marcus Garvey went to England, he went to Central America. So it's showing you that we have a connection. When Haiti freed himself, one thing that they don't tell you about the Haitians is that they had boats. After they freed themselves, the Haitians were doing export and import with North, Central, South America, and the East. So if these people were allegedly from Africa, why didn't they get on boats and go back to Africa? Because they knew that they were indigenous to the whole region. There's a professor in Jamaica. Her name is Sultana Afroz, Sultana Afroz. She's a female professor in Jamaica, and she wrote a paper called From Moors to Marinage, the Islamic Heritage of the Maroons in Jamaica. And I say it again, From Moors to Marinage, the Islamic Heritage of the Maroons in Jamaica. And she does a comparative writing between the Maroons and the Moors in Jamaica. So our history and our global history is very, very deep. We just have to go back before the modern slave labels and then go back into our global history. Once again, all the true continents start with the letter A for a reason. The letter A is a pyramid with a capstone. This is a Masonic code. We are global, not continental.
We are global. Wow. Wow. You know what? It was funny because I was watching this piece with Harry Belafonte. I love that brother. I love him. He don't hold his tongue on what he's talking about. He was on Democracy Now! Speaking about Obama, and he was talking about when him, H. Philip Randolph, and I went to go see Roosevelt, and it made me, and it started tying something together for me. He said that Roosevelt told H. Philip Randolph, he listened to him, then he said, you know what I want you to do? Go out and make me do what I'm supposed to do. This is what he said. When you ask someone, this is what we're trying to say here even on this forum. We don't ask anybody, we demand. Because if I ask you, you can say yes or no. But once you know who you are, you start demanding them to do certain things. That's the power. People want this microwave thing to get out of it overnight, but the people have to be educated. But when you listen to Harry Belafonte when he was speaking to them, he said that Roosevelt, and it made me think about Michael Jackson. I said, what Roosevelt got to do with all this in that song? Michael had a song called They Don't Care About Us. He said if Roosevelt was living, he wouldn't let this. And I'm like, wait a minute, what does Roosevelt have to do with this? And it's like, I need to do more research on this guy. But he was in the lodge. He was a Mason. But the European Masons know exactly who we are over here. Again, early on in the show, I said we have been knocked in our head and we have been knocked unconscious. Our history is all around us. Like Brother Moorish Brooklyn said, we're universal. We all over. We global. In courtrooms, they use the mallet and they bang it 3 times, which means it's symbolic. It's symbolic. That's a symbol that you've been hitting your head and knocked unconscious. The 3 ruffians. It's a whole lot of stuff that people don't know, but that's another show. But to show you how you ain't even got to look around to see that we have been knocked in our head to separate ourselves from our people in the Caribbean. And in Africa, too, because we are global people. This is why they can separate us and call us minorities.
Yeah, the separation is essential to maintaining power. I mean, how idiotic is it that you like the brother was talking about, I started laughing because he was talking about the pyramids. They couldn't figure out how to build the pyramids, so it must be aliens. Well, they can't figure out how the Colosseum in Rome was built.
Right.
Nobody says aliens came down and built the Colosseum or the Parthenon and something. They were just smart white people. But the Egyptians couldn't have built that, could they? Hell no. And the separation, once again, going back to the separation of Egypt and this continent, there are pyramids over here. Now, I'm not saying those things could not have been developed independently, but doesn't it make sense that if you have pyramids in this country and you have older pyramids in Egypt, don't you think that somebody came over here and said, let's build a pyramid? Isn't that just logical? I was watching a documentary the other day, maybe about 6 months ago, that they said they were talking about people who came before Columbus. And they talked about, of course, Leif Erikson, and they talked about everybody. And I'm sitting there watching this whole 2 hours wondering, now, when are they going to talk about the Africans that came? Not nary a time did they talk about anybody from that continent. They talked about Dutch people coming over here before Columbus. They talked about Leif Erikson. They talked about everybody, the Chinese everybody, but never once did they mention how an African could have come over here. That's not by accident. That's by design. That's a manipulation of history that continues. And therefore, once you go back to how important this medium is, if you get your knowledge from that, you never would know that an African was over here before. And this is brand new territory that they're supposed to be investigating. Well, I'm sorry, you cut off a big part of it. Was that by accident, or did you do that on purpose?
And that's why it's important for us to support these forums and support our film. We have to support our films. And it's like I'm looking at stuff, people going out buying their children a $180 pair of sneakers. I think they go up to $400 for a pair of sneakers, something that you want to wear out. I'm just looking at all these things. And Brother Hawthorne, real quick, I have something full of people say, who built the pyramids? I tell them children built the pyramids. They be like, what? Children did it. They did it by playing. When you let children play, they build things. You ever been a child and you start creating things? And then the Bible says we are children of the Most High. So when you look at the word child, we're thinking of a baby. So I say children, period. But when you let them play, they create. And the pyramids that's in Egypt it's not older than the one that was in South America. You have pyramids in South America that's older than the pyramids in Egypt. So
Can I add on?
It was scientifically set up.
Can I add on real quick?
Yes, go ahead, brother.
There's something that people could look up. It's called the Chinchorro mummies. If I spell it correctly, Chinchorro. The Chinchorro mummies are the oldest mummies in the entire planet above water. The Chinchorro mummies.
Where is that?
South America.
In South America? Where in South America, approximately?
Near the, I forgot the exact location, but if you look up Chinchorro mummies, you'll find it. They're also known as the red, black, and green mummies. Because some was painted all black, some was painted all red, some was painted all green. Chinchorro mummies.
Oh.
We in an information age. It's all here. This is why you don't have to, like I said, you don't have to take it back to the hate. And this is what I love with Prophet Noble Ali brought. He said, teach love, truth, peace, freedom, justice. If you stand on those 5 principles, nobody can come up against you. If you're dealing with truth, deal with facts. This is what we're dealing with, facts here. But we don't want you to take any of our word for it. When we speak, we're given dates and times and names and, and where and how they spelt the names. You never hear a politician or these historians that you see on TV like Hawthorne said. You don't hear them giving you this, but they're going to give you their point of view, which is right. That's okay. That's all right. But they're going to have to. They have to do that. They have to paint their people the way that they expect them to be. So I I don't have no beef with that.
Just have to go back to global history. When the rocks cry out, they'll learn that the west part of the Nile was not in a little square little corner in Africa. The western Kemet was actually North, Central, South America, and the Caribbean. Jerusalem, Nazareth, all these things is over here in the Americas. Why is there a Cairo and a Memphis on the Nile River, and there's a Cairo and a Memphis on the Mississippi River? Why is there a temple of Isis in the Grand Canyon? Why are there hieroglyphics in New York City?
Because it's global.
It's global. He said it again. It's global. Let's take some more phone calls before we run up out of time. So, Taja, who we have on the line? Show's getting heated.
Caller 580-318. Welcome to Silver Alert. Please state your name and where you're calling from.
Hey, peace, everybody. This is Gary over here in Oklahoma. Hey, Bey Sabir in Brooklyn, New York, and everybody and the host. Hey, I just wanted a question, what have you. Hey, I appreciate y'all efforts, especially you, Sabir Bey. I see your work on YouTube and dispersed on the internet, and I appreciate your work. I was just going to ask a question, And I have checked out Brooklyn, New York. I haven't heard from him in a while and what have you, because I used to look at some of his videos and what have you. He's very knowledgeable. And of course, everybody else on here is knowledgeable as well. I'm not swinging on y'all fine for real. Y'all very knowledgeable, and y'all do provide provide some good insights. I just got a question, like regarding. I know under the Moorish science or that sometimes y'all mention sometimes that I'm going to use this term only. Black, African, or Moorish have always been in America. Can you expound on that a little bit? One of the hosts, please, because I know earlier a brother on the host mentioned that we was all in Africa, as we know is Africa today, and of course, early dispersal, we dispersed into India, we dispersed into places such as the Philippines and Australia. But can you expound on that when you make a statement, say that us people of melon were always here in America?
All right. We all gonna go through this. I guess we can all build on this, harp on him too. But if you get this movie, I don't know if you heard him say it, The Stick Up Kids. That's a brilliant movie to get. This is the best movie I've seen. I'm dead serious. This is a movie. Even though it wasn't like a Hollywood whatever, which it should have been, but this movie gives you it's a roadmap. There's a book. I don't know if you heard him say. They Came Before Columbus. By Ivan, I think this one by Ivan Van Sertima.
Indeed.
About Ivan Van Sertima. There's many books, Ancient and Modern Brits by this guy named David McRitchie, which the book was written in 1884. And it speaks about the African tribe called the Lenape or the Manhattans, or, So it's like the terminology, the names. The names is when they started changing. Again, they taught us these things that we came on slave ships. But when you start seeing Escovino and different stuff like that, we don't think that that's us. So we were here long before Columbus got here. There's documents and records that stating that we were here, but we was not called African. This is when Noble Drew Ali came on the scene. He said, stop using Negro, black, and colored. And I say today African American, like I always say. And the nationality of our people was taken, and I was from Philadelphia. We do this thing called the Trek Back, and if anybody was in Philadelphia before, you would know, the history, because they give you the history down there. He said, I shall not tell a lie. I cut down my father's cherry tree. In Philadelphia, there's no cherry trees there. But Noble Drew Ali gives a history on our nationality being taken in 1774, and Negro, black, and color was placed on us. But we didn't use that. So it's going to take longer than an hour to even explain this type of stuff. There's masses of videos out to tie one in. This is what we were doing here tonight. Nature knows no color line, brother. I would say get this book also.
Well, I want to go back to his question, though. I'm not quite sure if I understood directly what he means by, because I think when I say that we always were here, it means we were here long before other peoples. The Africans, people from the African continent were here before. It's not like there was a Lucy here and all of a sudden we sprang up. No, we traveled here. So I think that's what it means. Am I incorrect?
Yeah, you're right, brother. Because I know we are, from my personal observation and from my personal studies and what have you and stuff. And of course, I know that the Western paradigm, they have that, the African origin of modern humans and what have you and stuff, and according to their empirical data and what have you, which is widely accepted. I know we have to be careful of that and what have you. And of course you have the multi-regional theory that contends against all humans' place of origin, regardless of where, like Europeans being in Europe and Asians being in China, et cetera, and the Aborigines being in an isolated place in Australia. They can all trace, regardless of who we are, what nationality or what race, quote unquote, what race we are. We all have a place of origin, and from their studies, show that we have a place of origin in Africa. So that's like that. And brother, you just clarified on it. You just said that. No, when I'm not saying, y'all are not saying that we was always in America. We was always at one place. I won't say one place, but we was at. How can I say it? We was at one place, and then we dispersed and what have you, and then we eventually traveled, You know, but of course they think that because the Asiatics, or quote, I don't want to use this word, but I'm going to use it for the lack of word, Mongoloids and what have you, were here. You know, so that's
because I mean it's just logical. If you look at the whole animal kingdom itself, of which we are a part of, everybody travels. That's how you disperse to different lands. And I don't know if you were on before when I was talking about it, but people adapt to their environment. That's why you get white people, because they don't need the melanin living in Iceland. You simply don't need the melanin. So if you travel there, I mean, in 2,000 years from now, if an African darker than midnight goes to Iceland and has children, more than likely those children will get darker, because we as human beings adapt. I mean, get lighter. I didn't mean get darker. Get lighter because they don't need that melanin. It's not available to them in that country. The sunlight isn't beating down on you all day long. So, yeah, we all come from the same origin, and we migrate. But Christopher Columbus was not this big guy who came over here and made the world. There were people here already who had already migrated to this country, to this continent.
We've been here way before him, because even, it was funny because, you know, and I always say, and I had this discussion with Stevie Wonder in L.A. one time, there's a soundtrack to Bamboozle, and in the soundtrack, now mind you, they talk about our history in the 1700s, late. Stevie Wonder has a soundtrack, and I would say people go to YouTube and punch it in, it's called Misrepresented People. Stevie Wonder starts out by saying in 1492, now, Moorish Brooklyn, I don't know if the brother was on, Moorish Brooklyn gave the history about the time frame. He said in 1492, Stevie said, when y'all came upon these shores, 700 years educated by the Moors. He said from now until then, he didn't separate. He said we have been unrepresented people. And I sat with Stevie and asked him about that, and he said most people don't know that we've been here and we were Moors. He said a song called My Chéri Amour, which was French for the love of a Moor. And he laughed because he said no one really sat with him and asked him, brought that up. He started laughing because you have to know what to say. If you don't know what to ask, the right questions, you're not going to get the right answer. You're not going to get it.
Can I give some reference?
Go ahead. Sure.
There's a book called America's Fascinating Indian Heritage, right?
Okay.
By
Can
Reader's
you repeat
Digest.
that one more time, Brooklyn?
It's called America's Fascinating Indian Heritage.
Okay.
By Reader's Digest. Two things in there real quick. One thing was there's a tribe called the Natchez tribe. In the Natchez tribe, you have a male ruler. The male ruler mother was called White Mother, and the male ruler's sisters was called White Sons, showing you that black and white has nothing to do with skin colors or status. But the other thing about this book was that in this book, it shows you that they were something called Paleo-Indians. The Paleo-Indians were even documented to be here before the Olmecs.
All right.
That shows you how long we've been here. Another reference is the 1828.
So are these saying, to my understanding and what have you, that I think that the Olmecs were quote unquote Negroids. So you saying that you said that the Paleo-Indians were here prior to
the Olmecs. This is how long.
Were they also quote unquote Negroids?
Yes, brother. Negroid mean original melanated people on the planet, known as indigenous, autochthon, paleo, pre-Adamite. All of that is melanated people known as Africans, blacks, all these different names. Another reference is the 1828 Webster Dictionary, and if you read that, the definition for American, it says a copper-tone aboriginal found here by the European.
Wow.
There's another book you can get called Forbidden Archaeology.
Okay.
That book is going to reference a whole bunch of archaeological proof found all over the planet, but also here in America, that they're hiding the true history from. There's a reason why in the movie Indiana Jones, At the end of the movie, you see them covering stuff with crates and pushing it into a warehouse away from the public. Thank you, Smithsonian and other agencies.
Yeah. You know what? And before we go on, right?
And one more thing. There's Oops Archaeology. Oops Archaeology. OOPART. Oops Archaeology stands for Out of Place Artifacts. These are artifacts that goes back millions of years ago, and they were found here in the Americas. One thing you have to understand, we have gone through many migrations on this planet. We've shifted from North America to South America to Africa, from Africa back to South America, and South America going all the way back up. They just found proof that in Georgia there was a Mayan civilization with mountain pyramids and everything. We have been here for eons. This recent migration story where they say that we all come from Africa is a recent migration reconstruction period for melanated people. So the book, American Fascinated Indian Heritage by Reader's Digest, Forbidden Archaeology,
Gotcha.
and Out-of-Place Artifacts.
And
one more gem. You ever heard of Gondwanaland?
Isn't there like one of the supercontinents or something like that, like Pangea and...
There you go. There were continents even, there were supercontinents before Pangea. They don't even tell us about that. But Gondwanaland was when Africa was connected to South America. Do you know what Gondwanaland means?
No, I don't, bro.
Land of the dark people. That's over 150 million years ago.
Wow. See, and this is why I love this forum, man, because even when I did Radio Back East, I would, like, have this open, because most people on radio do not talk about this. They scared, first of all, and just my experience of the program director, people that's hired, because they didn't want this out to people. Once you get the knowledge, you get the power. And Taj was calling to talk about the word Indian. If anybody look up the word Indian in any dictionary, it means indigo. It's a color. It's a color of people. It's not people run around and say, these Indian people. The Indians are us that they're talking about. That's what they're referring to, indigo, which is a color. Right. So we need to stop calling these people Indians. They're not. Just like we need to stop calling these people Jews. They're not Jews neither. We need to stop using all these terms because we are the original Jews.
They have them. It's in codes. The word Indian means darkish, purplish. West Indian, American Indian, Native Indian. That just means native dark person, American dark person, Western dark person. Now you could put together.
So from what Western contemporary science states that, we human beings are Homo sapiens, they say they trace us back, to 150,000 years or what have you by using the mitochondria or the DNA, that from your personal research that Homo sapiens, us humans, even existed way before what the consensus of contemporary science say we're from.
Brother, you need to put it into perspective. We are living in the shadows of children that only been here over 6,000 years ago.
Okay.
When you research blood types,
did you understand my language?
I understand what you're saying, brother. Here's another clue you could research. You could research blood types. They got A, B, and O.
Right.
O blood type is the oldest blood type on the entire planet. O blood type is indigenous to North, Central, South America, and the Caribbean.
Okay.
The information is everywhere, but you yourself have to put it together. They are not going to put it together for you. There are Masons, Shriners, Jesuits, the Vatican Library. There are gatekeepers everywhere to make sure that people do not get the information, including their own people. There's interior scientists, and then there's scientists outside of that circle, and then there's scientists outside of that circle.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Wow. Come on, let's take some more callers. I think
brother, I appreciate y'all. Y'all keep doing what y'all doing. Thank you.
Thank you, brothers. Thank you.
Thank you, bro.
And don't forget, Taj and I will be in Atlanta on February the 4th, I will be there showing my film on 28th of February. So, hit us up on Facebook for any kind of booking. Also, my website is SabirBeyProductions.com. That's SabirBeyProductions.com. The donating button is always there. You want to order some DVDs, we're still updating it. So reach out. Peace. Let's take this other caller.
All right. Caller 267-872. Welcome to Civil Alert. Please state your name and where you're calling from.
Hey, peace to the guys and the guys. This is Brother Derek Ross from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania.
Peace, brother. Peace. What's going on, Derek?
Hey, what's going on, Sabir? Man, definitely shout out to all you brothers and the sisters for putting on this great build. I'm definitely loving what I'm hearing. I haven't heard Brother Moorish Brooklyn Intelligence in a minute, so I definitely learned a lot from you, especially all the stuff you was talking about with the mummies and all that stuff. It's crazy.
Thanks, brother. And this is a young soldier right here, man. This brother, and he's the next one that's going to, carry the torch. This is what we talk about, is to teach. This is what we had to teach. So, we have to get into these schools. We have to get into these films. We got to get into the, people that have the heart, or they would say in Masonry, tubo canes, to really speak the truth to our people, But thanks, brother. Anything you want to share with everybody, bro?
Yeah. Actually, I had a two-part question. Both of y'all can, everybody can build on this. In terms of dealing with the Caribbean history, us being Moors and stuff, I always wondered the only people who actually teach about that teach about us being connected in terms of South America, the Caribbean islands, and also here in North America are the Israelites. And I wanted to know, what's that connection between Genesis chapter 10 and the Table of Nations, and dealing with those names, the name of the tribes, and dealing with the names that we call them today, Jamaicans and Panamanians and American Negroes and stuff like that. And also, the second part of my question is, what was the original languages of the Western Hemisphere? Was it Arabic, was it Hebrew, or was it a mixture of a couple of different languages?
You want to go with that one, Brooklyn? You want me to take it? It's up to you. You want to go?
When you research Christopher Columbus journals and other people that came over here, you have to put this picture in your mind. These are our mulatto children that's coming over here. So there's always been a battle against ourselves. When you read about the interpreters were, for some strange reason, they had to speak Hebrew, Chaldean, Arabic, and Spanish, properly known as Latin, to speak to people in North, Central, South America, and the Caribbean for some strange reason.
Okay.
So if you go to a dictionary, everybody has Ebony and Jet Magazine and Black Enterprise in their house, but nobody has an unabridged dictionary. If you open up an unabridged dictionary, in the beginning it shows you where all the alphabets, the major ones, are all connected. Alpha, Alif, Aleph, they're showing you that there's a global connection, but they're not going to tell you that.
You have to study. Brother Moorish Brooklyn, thank you, Brother Derek. We got 4 minutes. I'm going to take one more caller before we get off. One or two more callers. If we can squeeze them in some time, we got 4 minutes.
Okay, caller 302-723.
Make it short real quick.
Welcome to Civil Alert.
All right, peace, Brother Sabir. It's Brother Tarik Bey again.
Hey, brother, real quick, we got 3 or 4 minutes, brother. What's going on, fam? How you doing?
I'm all right. I wanted to touch base on the AIDS factor that we was talking about. There's a place actually down in Paluxy River near Glen Rose, Texas, okay, that actually has dinosaur footprints alongside of human footprints in the limestone layer there.
Yep.
And, traditionally...
Do you remember how long ago they said dinosaurs disappeared?
Over 60 million years ago.
65 million years ago. That means that we were here. You got to put it together.
Wow. Thank you, brother. Man. That's it, because we got 3 minutes. Thank you. Real quick, we got going to another caller.
Caller 216, you're live on Civil Alert.
Peace. This is Amon Smith here.
Peace, brother. Real quick, we got 2-3 minutes left, brother. Question or comment, real quick.
Okay, well, just a couple of things. First of all, white person.
We don't have time for a couple of things. We just for one thing, because our time, we got 2-3 minutes, brother. That's it.
All right, brother. Well, just the fact that, I'm saying that, we're the original people, and we've always been here, and no matter where you are on the planet, it was always dark-skinned, and cold weather has nothing to do with light skin. That's all I want to say. Peace.
Okay, thanks, family. Let's take some more callers, and we got a great closeout. They call it, we try to get people to call a little early, even though I know we need more time, but like Brother Hawthorne said, we can't do this in 2 hours. So for booking, please hit me on my Facebook, Sabir Bey, or just email me at civalalertworld@yahoo.com or sabir@sabirbeyproductions.com. I mean, you can reach me any kind of way, 1-888-495-4452. Anyway, I mean, the timing. One more caller before we get up out of here.
Caller 347, you're live on Civil Alert.
Hello, hi. Hello?
Yes, we running up. We got like 2 minutes. Question. Yes, we have 2 minutes. Question or comment? Yes.
Can you hear me? Hi. This is Kenita. Good show. I've been listening in. The Unabridged Dictionary. Where can you find that?
Barnes and Nobles, whatever store is open online, Amazon. Look for Unabridged Dictionary. Webster, Oxford. Webster, Oxford.
Reach me. Just get Unabridged Dictionary. Go online. Since that's our cue, we got a great go out. That's our cue because we up against the clock. Brother Hawthorne James, I want to thank you always. This is your home, Moorish Brooklyn Intelligence. Thank you. Hawthorne, you got any really closing statements, something you want to say?
Yeah, it's just a quick. When I say cold weather, I meant those climates that are colder have less sunlight. Melanin. It has to do with melanin. And also, I learned something from you tonight that you said that there are older pyramids in this part of the world than there are in Egypt. So I learned something, and I learned something from the brother. Thank y'all for the knowledge.
Thank you, brother. Moorish Brooklyn, any closing statements?
Thanks for having me on. Thank you, brother Hawthorne, for being on. Anybody want to reach me, you can reach me at MoorishBrooklyn.com. Spell it out all together, MoorishBrooklyn.com.
Yep, and he'll be on again. So this ain't the last time. We're always here. I want to thank everybody. Until next week, tell a friend. Every Tuesday, 6:30 West Coast time, 9:30 East Coast time. And also, before I get off of here, y'all, go check out WHCR.org. You'll hear Africa Bambaataa live on WHCR.org. And you will hear and see him, you streaming it. I'll be on there soon. Peace to everybody. Till next week.
The righteous way to go, little one would know, or believe if I know them so. The second to none.